Shared services is about building a business that delivers services inside the organization at a cost, at a quality, and with a timeliness that is competitive with alternative ways of doing the same thing. That means putting a business model on top of consolidation. And the reality is most shared services fail when they fail to look at this as a business. It's an internal business that has to deliver value and has to do that repeatedly, time after time, to maintain its viability. That's how you start with shared services. So make that decision first. In my experience, people who have thought about shared services as an internal business, irrespective of how they ultimately account for that, have been the most successful. And maintaining that as a metaphor for every single thing you do in your shared services center is absolutely key to having something that is truly sustainable. So those are the fundamental reasons: efficiency and effectiveness of internal service provision, creating it on a business-like basis, ultimately what will make it successful or otherwise. There's another really good reason which many companies causes many companies to turn to shared services, and that is actually the opposite mode, which is a fast-growing expansionary mode or an acquisitive mode. Many companies today are growing essentially through acquisitions, and my goodness me, isn't an acquisition a lot easier to do when you already know from day one you don't need to take over all of the administration of that company you're acquiring. You can fold that instantly into a well-honed, well-managed business called your shared services center. So companies that are acquisitive, moving from country to country, are finding their acquisitions a lot easier. There is no question about whether the new company integrates. It's integrated on day one into a well-run, well-managed business called a shared services center. That is another wonderful reason not to build country-by-country infrastructures and then have to dismantle them later at a lot of expense and a lot of disruption. Don't build them in the first place. Fold new companies straight into your shared service center. Second, and probably the ultimate good reason for having shared services. I recall sitting a while back with 16 finance executives from a large corporation, sitting at a table with them, and they were saying, yeah, we're absolutely going to put financial shared services in because we want to reduce the costs in our organization. I said, no problem. Well, what do you want to achieve? Well, we want to achieve a 30% reduction in providing finance-related services within our company. That was a terrific thing to aspire to. At that particular point, I drew the conversation to a close and asked, would 5 of you sitting at that end of the table please leave the room? And they, of course, they said, no, why are we going to do that? Well, no, please leave the room. I said, no, why are we going to do that? Well, you did say you want to have a 30% reduction in your finance-related services. That's what it means. It means less people, essentially. So, well, that's not quite what we intended to do. Well, in that case, don't even bother with your initiative. In fact, the reality is that most companies consolidating replicator services across a company is almost a seasonal activity. A very wise man many years ago, when I had a real life in the corporate world, gave me a wonderful little device. And on one side of that device, it said, centralization starts here. When you spun it around, on the other side, it said, decentralization starts here. So consolidation consisting of centralization and decentralization is, as many of us have realized when you've lived through a few cycles in the corporate world, is just a regular activity. It's a flow of activity and control from the center to the outside, to the countries or to the business units, and all the way back again. That is a wonderful thing to do, but that is absolutely not shared services.